Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to you all to our Saturday conversations. Aap sabka swagat hai. Welcome from not so sunny England. It's raining and tomorrow it's supposed to snow. And we are still in a full lockdown. So the kids are at home, no school, and it's chaotic madhouse. I'm just speaking until you all join. Hare Krishna. Right. So today we have a very special conversation with an even more special guest. The conversation is about mantra meditation, about japa, chanting. Aajkal ye mantra ya meditation, it's a bit of a buzzword, very popular, trending word, meditation. You know, the West is doing it, so it must have something in it. Lekin it's difficult to distinguish what is really meditation and then what is mantra meditation. It's a bit confusing for many. So आज का topic हमने लिया है mantra meditation, jap, chanting. What is it? How to do it? What is the benefit? How is it different than silent meditation? What are the benefits of it? And even though we do it regularly, you know, we do kirtan, we do japa, I'm still very excited about this topic because it's a bit of an art. It's a life skill that has to be perfected. थोड़ा बहुत यहाँ पर जप कर लेते हैं, ये ठीक है, लेकिन to get the full benefit of it, it's a skill that has to be really worked on throughout life. So I'm very excited to introduce our guest today who can really answer any questions that we might have, because he is a very well-versed, knowledgeable, world-renowned speaker on all topics to do with spirituality and specifically bhakti, because he's studied and really put in the effort to understand our Vedic scriptures. And so it comes from a place of practicing and preaching. You know, he's become a medium of giving us wisdom from experience and actual practice. So not only has he learned this from an ancient tradition and a guru and a paramparik, is that the right word? From a parampara system. I always feel that when I hear from someone like this, I can feel very confident that whatever I'm about to hear is going to be very meaningful. It's not just a matter of opinion or thought, or I think like this. I feel confident hearing from someone who has studied the scripture, because we know it's going to be authentic wisdom. So without further ado, his name is Amarendra Das. He's very, very popular. If you want to hear more from him, you can look him up on YouTube, Facebook. He's got millions of views, and not just spiritually accomplished, he's also materially holds a double master's from the US in mechanical engineering, is it? We'll find out. And so it's nice to know that he's a person of the world. He's not just doesn't just think like a sadhu or a monk, but he also is doing our daily duties, is living a normal life, so we can connect with the wisdom he's about to share. So without further ado, if you could please join me in welcoming Amarendra Das, Amarendra Prabhu as we call him. Hare Krishna. Very warm welcome to you, Amarendra ji.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
We're so excited, especially us as a Jani family, whether it's my in-laws or me and my husband or my sister-in-law, somebody's always listening to an Amarendra Prabhu katha in the house because it's very, we find it very inspiring. And so our special gratitude to you, because it's hard in our daily life to have access to this timeless wisdom, but you do it so effortlessly and so full of light, and it's lighthearted that we can connect with it. So we are indebted. Thank you for your work in sharing bhakti to everyone.
I am indebted to the teachers that I was blessed with. I am indebted to the spiritual preceptors, mentors, gurus that I have learned from. I'm grateful that you're offering your words of appreciation, but I will accept your kind words, but I will not believe them, because I'm I am not the one. I like to give the example of a conveyor belt in an airport. You can see that in an airport, people, especially in the baggage claim, they stand to get the baggage. They're there to claim their bag. It seems as if the bag's coming from the start of the conveyor belt, but actually it's coming from the city where it was shipped from. So similarly, my mouth seems to be like a conveyor belt, and bags are coming out in the form of words, but they're not mine. They are being shipped by the teachers. So I pass on all your kind words to them.
Wow, it's your job to be humble about it, but it's our job to praise you and truly appreciate the depth of this gift. So without further ado, if we could share with the audience, how did you come to this path of bhakti and appreciating the gifts that it has to offer?
So basically for me, it was, I would say, it was a very beautiful ride. I did not have to go through caves and mountains and monasteries and ashrams and one spiritual temple to another. As a family, so basically I was born in 1992. I'm 29 years old. So we were living in Saudi Arabia as a family in 1992 up to 1995. And being an Islamic country, my father had a lot of Muslim friends. And during the breaks at work, they would discuss about what the Quran talks about life and what the Quran talks about, the start of this creation and everything. And they would look at him and say that, okay, you're a Hindu, what does your Gita talk about? And he had no clue. And in all humility, he tells us that I did not have any clue about it. And that kind of kindled the fire in the heart that, as a Hindu, I must know something at least. So came home, spoke to my mother, and that's how the journey began. And in 1995, they joined the Bhakti tradition, and I was 3 years old, and I started from their lap, and I was very fortunate to get it early in my life.
It's amazing because sometimes we have these blocks in our mind about Muslims or Christians, and we create these barriers, but in effect, your family was inspired by Muslims to take up their faith seriously. So, credit where it's due, that if somebody is following their faith and truly trying to understand God, and from whatever faith they are, it is truly commendable. So thanks to those Muslims, you are now
in fact our neighbors in Saudi Arabia were Pakistanis. And they were our best friends. They would come home and they were, even now actually sometimes my parents talk about them, that once we moved back to Mumbai, they moved back to Karachi, and their first son was my age, so the two sons would grow up together, and it was nice.
Wonderful.
Just to add to that point.
Yes, and to find inspiration anywhere we can to get closer to the ultimate truth. Wonderful. So your parents joined, and then you said you moved back to Mumbai. That's fascinating. I grew up in a Vaishnav family. I grew up in the temple, and yet I know the challenges that are there, and following it from an authentic place in yourself. It's one thing to be told this is the right path, this is the right thing to do, but it's something else to really believe in it and follow it for yourself. And to give it your 100%. So what was your own spiritual aspiration as such? And were there moments where you had to decide, is this real for me?
Actually, that's quite a good question, because that's what all of us go through. Even I went through the same phase, especially during my teens. But it was interesting. It wasn't a prominent phase in my life. It was just a moving phase. And I had a lot of support, in the sense that my parents were practicing bhakti at home. And they were teaching me with logic and reasoning and science. And all of this credit goes to Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj, who was actually the guru and teacher of my parents, and he also happens to be
Wow.
one of the students and disciples of Prabhupada, who's the founder of ISKCON. So he came from a PhD background himself in physical organic chemistry, and he was also a sannyasi. So that was interesting. So for me, as I was growing up, I saw Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj. Of course, Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj left this world in 2006 when I was 14. But then, till then, I saw that he was very intelligent. It wasn't blind faith. It wasn't blind faith. It was authenticated faith. Everything that he spoke about, he would come back to, so it's interesting. Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj had termed what is called a spiriton, just like you have electron and proton and neutron. He had given the spiritual spark or the Atma the name spiriton.
Yes.
And he would
He's
explain
a spiritual scientist.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So my parents, under his guidance, were the first pillar of science and spiritual synthesis, I would say. The harmony, two things. Religious harmony was something that they focused on in my childhood, and science and spiritual synthesis was something that they focused on. So science and spirituality are not two ends. They're actually two ends which meet.
Exactly.
So that was one thing. Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj was the other. My school was certainly a very big boost, I would say. I went into not a Gurukul, not a semi-Gurukul, but it was just a normal school in Bombay with everything going on, materialism, Bollywood, cricket, talk about it, politics, everything. But one good thing was they had Sanskrit in school, and they had 1 hour of prayers every morning. So that's something that started off with spiritual life and things like that. And then reading a lot of science behind spirituality is something that kept me going personally, I would say, because I come with a very rational, logical, right. I would, in my teenage, always think about this fact that maybe, is this right? Is this wrong? Is this authentic? Am I actually going to see light on the end of the tunnel? But reasoning with science and logic and rational open mind, seeing the scriptures, seeing the scientific evidence, and especially great scientists who believed in God, who gave their perspective in science. Like, for example, the famous atomic physicist Niels Bohr once very famously said that in it, when he was asked, what did you see in the atom? He said, in it, I saw the greatness of the creation and the creator.
Wow.
So I was thinking, someone who's gone to the depth, the breadth, length, and depth of science is someone who's coming out and saying this. And another example that comes to my mind is Werner Heisenberg, another great scientist. He said, initially, when we sip from the glass of science, we start off with the thought that God doesn't exist. He said, but as I went on sipping from the glass of science, I saw in the bottom of the glass, God was waiting for me with open arms.
Kya baat hai.
So when I was reading their work, I was seeing that here are brainy, intelligent, research-oriented, logically provoked, philosophers and world changers. And when they come to this consensus or this conclusion, so from the scientific world and from the spiritual world, I think it solidified for me.
Wonderful. It's never about blind faith. I feel like a lot of people think कि हाँ मतलब भक्ति ये blind faith के बारे में है. It's like it's for some people. It's for emotional people. ये थोड़ा कभी-कभी सुनने मिलता है. लेकिन that's बिल्कुल गलत in my experience, and how you're explaining it. It makes complete sense that actually it's completely scientific and rational. And if you're not questioning it along, at each step, then you're not really doing it right. In one sense, there should be this questioning mind so that we can be strong in that faith. It's not blind faith and it's not weak faith. And I love that you had the influence of your parents and Guru Maharaj. All of these very powerful personalities who are practicing. When we see it in practice, I find that it's so much more relevant than just the theoretical knowledge. So both are important, the knowledge and having that example before us to see how it manifests. So wonderful point about that. Okay, so that inspired you on a personal level to take it more seriously, but yet you got 2 master's degrees. Was your faith not strong enough in God? Why did you have to get a master's degree?
Because,
They say
well,
sometimes people.
God
हाँ जी,
gives
बोलिए.
God gives every bird its worm, but necessarily
हाँ.
doesn't drop it in the nest.
Okay,
So
right.
we believe in God, but God helps those who help themselves.
हाँ, हाँ, बिल्कुल. Okay, so tell us a little bit more about that. That having a foot in both worlds, in the sense that it can be quite challenging, to our faith, and being able to assess that it's not contradictory. It's not contradictory to be a person of this world, to contribute to society, to have material aspirations is not actually contradictory to a really deep place of faith in God. If you could just maybe expand on that and how to maintain that. But of course, our vision for supreme truth is the highest goal. But many goals are also allowed.
Right. Absolutely. Because we have to live in this world. And if you see, like 90% of the people who live in this world are married, they have kids, they have bills to pay, they have to pay for their car, they have to pay loans, they have to pay back their loans.
Bilkul.
They have so many things, debts.
Tell us about it.
lot of things. And apart from that, desires to fulfill, goals and aspiration, and everyone's in a different direction. So, well, we have to be practical. We have to keep our eyes in the sky, but at the same time, foot on the ground. We can't fly in the sky prematurely. So I like to give the example of a bird in a cage. If you think about a bird in a cage, it's important to clean the cage. But what's the point in cleaning the cage if you don't have time to feed the bird? Right. So, so I would say that our material pursuits are like cleaning the cage, and our spiritual pursuits are like feeding the bird. So we need both. We need to feed the bird, but the bird is not going to be happy in a dirty cage. And we're going to keep the cage clean, but what's the use of having a clean cage with a dead bird? So feeding the bird and cleaning the cage. So feeding the soul and feeding the body. So for the body, we have to work in the soul, and for the soul, we need some spiritual practice. And another practical example that we all can relate to is the vehicle and a driver of a vehicle. Like the car needs maintenance. The car needs gas or fuel or petrol. The car needs, change of tires. The car needs all of that. But what's the use if we maintain the car and we forget to give roti and sabji to the driver, or the food to the driver? So both are important. Feeding the driver भी महत्वपूर्ण है, और गाड़ी में भी मेंटेन करना वो भी बहुत, उसका भी बहुत महत्व है, गुरुत्व है. तो दोनों पक्ष में हमें ध्यान देना होगा. दोनों महत्वपूर्ण है हमारे जीवन में. So feeding the bird and cleaning the cage, and feeding the driver and maintaining the car is synonymous to feeding the soul and maintaining the body. So we need both. And in a balanced state of life, we can say that the train always moves very well on 2 parallel tracks. So our spiritual practice and our material pursuit, if they are parallel to each other, then the train of bhakti, or the train of happy, joyous, balanced, harmonious family life in the path of bhakti will go on. Very, very important. So I also like to say that Krishna, when he appears, we all know he appeared on Gokulashtami or Janmashtami, right? And similarly, Radha, Srimati Radharani, also appeared on an Ashtami Tithi. Yes. So Ashtami, if you see, it's exactly in the middle. On one side is Amavasya, which is no moon, and on the other side is Purnima, which is full moon. And Krishna appeared exactly on the 8th day to show us the path of balance. So if we are able to feed the soul and feed the body through spiritual and material practices every single day in the right proportion, then we'll grow spiritually also in a comfortable material setting. So this is what I've always believed in, and this is what I have seen.
Right. So I think a lot gets lost in translation, because balance is key. I think in anything, in diet, in practice, everything, even in spirituality, as you were saying. But the imbalance, meaning एक तरफ ज्यादा थोड़ा weight देना, that causes a lot of confusion. So if we could just expand on, you said in the correct proportion. Someone else is asking here, what is more important? Believe in God or believe in science? Is there such a thing as more? We have this idea that balance करेंगे तो मतलब दोनों ही equally करना है. लेकिन आपने बोला proportion is important.
Right.
So which is more? How to find that balance? How to figure out the proportion? You know, obviously from a spiritual perspective, we're always hearing that is the most important. That is the most important. So in a practical sense, how do you proportion that out?
So basically, we all work from, let's say, 8 to 6 or 9 to 5. We say 9 to 5, but we end up working from 8 to and then goes on.
All day.
Right. So we know our material activities, our work, our business, whatever it is, it starts at 8 o'clock in the morning. And we have to arm ourselves with sufficient spiritual food and protection before we hit the real world. I like to give the example from the Bhagavatam. We see that all the friends of Krishna, they entered the mouth of Aghasur, the big serpent demon. We all may have heard that story of where Aghasur, sent by Kamsa from Mathura to Vrindavan, he was in the shape of a big, humongous, gigantic snake. And all of Krishna's friends, they got attracted and they said, hey, let's go in. It seems to be like a wonderful cave that we have not experienced before. And some said, do you see there's a red carpet welcome for us? That's the tongue of Aghasur. There's a red carpet entry for us. Let's go. And they entered. But one friend got this doubt. What if we go in and it's a demon? So they said, why do you worry? The killer of Putana is right behind. So they all looked at Krishna's face and said, if something happens to us as we go in, you take care of us. And they all went in and they were swallowed by Aghasur. But what happened was Krishna did not forget what they did before they entered. Very important point. Before they entered the mouth of Aghasur, they looked at Krishna and they said, if something happens to me, you
with your permission. With your permission, we'll do all this.
Absolutely. Thakur aapke naam. हम अंदर जा रहे हैं, प्रवेश कर रहे हैं, इस अघासुर के श्रीमुख में हम प्रवेश कर रहे हैं. यदि हमारे जीवन में कोई आपत्ति विपत्ति आए तो आप संभालें. आप सबके रक्षक, आप सबके भक्षक, आप त्राता हैं. तो आप जगत के एकमात्र ईश्वर हैं, आप रक्षा करें. So the ball was in Krishna's court as to what they did before they entered the mouth of Aghasur. And as they entered, they were engulfed by Aghasur. And then Krishna entered, ripped him open, and got all the friends back. So what that means is,
like that.
Exactly. Yes. So what it means is our material pursuits, whatever it may be, we should consider it's like the mouth of Aghasur. And before we enter into the mouth of Aghasur, we should look at Krishna and spend enough time with him to tell him from 8 o'clock every morning to 6 o'clock every evening, I'm going to enter the mouth of Aghasur. And Krishna. High probability, I will faint there in absence of Krishna consciousness and I will forget you. Wow. But my Lord, before I'm going in, I look at your lotus face. You please protect me. Wow. And if we do that, even at our workspace, even when we are traveling, even when we have our own business, we have our passionate, ambitious phone calls with clients and customers. And that's won't be the time when we will remember Krishna. So that's like the forgetfulness of Aghasur setting in. He's bringing in the forgetfulness of Krishna. But if we spend enough time with Krishna before going to work, then Krishna will somehow enter that workspace of Aghasur's mouth for us and bring us out. So the technique or the main tip for balance is not waking up at 7:30 and somehow rushing to work at 8. It's starting up at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. So that we have at least from, let's say, 5 to 6:30 of good, solid spiritual practice to digest 10 hours of material work, association, talks, impressions, food, everything matters. The colleagues that we have, the talks that we have, the thoughts that we have, the food that we have there, the parties that we have, the consciousness that we have there. To digest all of that, we need at least 1.5 hours of solid spiritual practice. And I think that's where our topic is very important, because it brings back to the point of mantra meditation.
Kya baat hai, I just want to reiterate that this idea of Aghasura's mouth, it's dangerous. The world that we live in, these impressions and this kind of, it can be a very dangerous situation. We're thinking we're enjoying it, we're the doers, we're success, and there's so much excitement in the details of doing, but actually it it can be quite a dangerous place for the spirit. And I like that it's been highlighted that it's not through our own endeavors that we can protect ourselves. Sometimes we think, I'm spiritually, matlab, I'm yoga karung, I'll do meditation and I'm going to become me, I'm going to do this. But actually, what a wonderful example, what a profound example, that as long as we take shelter, we are not the doers. Our protection cannot come from us. It must come from the Supreme Person.
Right.
So, wow, wonderful, wonderful. So you're saying this practice in the morning, an hour and a half, I don't manage it every day. And I know that I'm supposed to. But let's first start off with, what is it? What is it? Because meditation, it's a buzzword now. Meditation, they're doing it in Western schools to improve focus and mindfulness. And there's all these Western words for it now. लेकिन ये मंत्र मेडिटेशन तो हमारे संस्कृति से ही आ रही है, वैदिक, this is Vedic practice of meditation, and we are the professors. We, in terms of this timeless wisdom, has been in our what is this, parampara for millenniums. So we should know about it. As Hindus, we should know what is meditation, what is the best form of meditation, what is a mantra, and how does it have power. Wherever you want to start, enlightening us.
So before I start, I just want to connect the point that we are about to speak to the point that we just spoke. I liked how you reiterated the point that we can't protect ourselves. We have to depend on him or the higher power to protect us. And Sripad Ramanujacharya from South India gives a very beautiful contrast. He gives two examples. He calls what is called as a Markata Pravritti and what is called as a Marjara Pravritti. So Markata Pravritti is the mentality of a monkey, and Marjara Pravritti is the mentality of a cat or a kitten. And he gives a very beautiful analysis, which brings 2 points together, which I'll come to it in a bit. So he mentions about the monkey, the tendency, the natural proclivity of a monkey, baby monkey. It holds on to the mother. The mother doesn't hold on to the baby. The baby holds on to the mother. And as the mother is about to jump, the mother just signals that I am going to jump now. You hold on. If you don't hold on, you're going to fall. So the baby, holds on to the mother.
Grabs on for dear life.
Absolutely. So that kind of meditation is called as the Markata Pravritti, where we do our bit to hold on to him. But the other way thought is the Marjara Pravritti, that of a cat. All that the kitten does, meow. And the mother cat comes,
bites him,
and the mother cat picks up the kitten in the mouth. Now it's the interesting thing. That same mouth, which could be death for the rat, becomes the most loving, affectionate, comforting, motherly, protective covering of the cat. And all that the kitten has to do is meow. So other practices of meditation are that of a Markata Pravritti, where we try to exercise our intelligence and our body and our physique and our cognitive intellectual ability to hold on and to realize the Supreme. But mantra meditation, or mantra jap, or sankirtan as they call it, the path of kirtan, is the Marjara Pravritti. It's that of a kitten, where you just call out to him lovingly. You call out his names. You say that I don't have so much power to understand you. I am very small. Optical illusions in this world confuse me. Directions confuse me. I forget names of people. I see them in front of me. I forget their names, and I forget the passcode to my phone, and I forget the password to my laptop.
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल
तो मैं कैसे आपको ढूंढ पाऊंगा? आप सर्वसमर्थशाली हैं, मैं बहुत छोटा व्यक्ति हूं, मैं आपका अंश हूं प्रभु। आप विभु हैं, मैं अणु हूं। जिस प्रकार एक छोटी सी मारजार या स्मॉल किटन कॉल्स आउट टू द मदर, प्रेम से पुकारती है, मुझ में कोई योग्यता नहीं, सामर्थ्य नहीं, मैं अपनी रक्षा कर सकूं। हे माँ, आप आके कृपा करके रक्षा करें। मैं आपको केवल पुकार सकता हूं या पुकार सकती हूं। So this is mantra meditation, the call of the heart, which comes as articulated words through the lips in the form of sound, with utter humility, and saying, I have tried enough, but nothing's working out. You please pick me up and help me. This is called mantra meditation.
Wow. क्या बात है, क्या बात. So again, we want to reiterate that we could try it on our own. हम अपने आप कर सकते हैं to some degree. To some, we create. Say human beings, we're creating big buildings and societies and institutions. We are small creators, but self-realization, something to the depths of connecting with the supreme, with the divine, that is not something small. And if it has anything to do with God, then we have to accept that we need help.
Right.
And I really appreciated that point you shared, that is actually our power. We have that ability to just ask, and थोड़ा सा म्याऊं बोल दिया हमने, और भगवान कहाँ से कहाँ पहुंच जाएंगे हमारे लिए.
बिल्कुल. मुझे यही लगता है कि just like a child, someone who's like, let's say 2-3 years old, he can never see this world from a 7-foot height. Not possible. Because he's only so small. But if he calls out to his father, who's 6.5 feet or 7 feet tall, what does the father do? The father puts him up on his shoulder. Now the child cannot see that from that height on his own ability. But when he depends on his father, and the father agrees to pick him up, now he sees from the same height as the father. So this is the process of bhakti, where we call out to God with humility, that I make mistakes. I am not perfect. My analysis gets into paralysis. And same, our Bhagavad Gita starts with the same point. Arjuna in chapter 1 tries to figure out, right?
Surrender. Yeah.
Many times people say Bhagavad Gita starts off from the 2nd chapter where Bhagavan speaks. But why even include the 1st chapter? Because the 1st chapter is more important than all the rest 17 chapters. Because in the 1st chapter, Arjuna is trying to figure out. He tells Krishna, Senayor ubayor madhye ratham sthapaya me achyuta. Hey Achyut, मैं रथ आरूढ़ हूं, वहां बीच में जाकर दोनों पक्ष के बीच में मुझे खड़ा करा देना. मुझे देखना है मित्र पक्ष कौन सा और शत्रु पक्ष कौन सा. I want to see who are my friends and who are my enemies. And he is using God or Krishna as a means to fulfill his desire. But then when his mind starts reeling and the bow starts slipping from his hand and he's perspiring and he's confused, he says, Shishyaste ham shadhimam tvam prapannam. Oh, Krishna, I can't figure out. You help me. And the Bhagavad Gita starts from there. So the hunger created to accept the fire of, or the sweetness of Bhagavad Gita, that hunger is very important. So we on the path of bhakti, to say that, like Arjuna, that please, please
help.
Accept, please help.
And what a powerful point, because someone's just asking, Chet Thakkar ji, Father is within us, तो हमको पुकारने की क्या जरूरत है? बात ठीक है, लेकिन आपने, what you just shared is so powerful, that even though Krishna was with Arjuna, Krishna is saying, okay, I'm going to help you. Yet Arjuna had to do all the analysis, figure it out himself. But at the end, he said, okay, now I really need you to help me. Not just a physical way. That surrender is absolutely key. Of course, God is within us. God is everywhere. But that doesn't mean that we can just take it for granted. Like, हाँ ठीक है, कर लेंगे हमारे लिए वो. No, we have to ask. We must, So if you wanted to share something.
Sure. Sure, it's actually a relationship of love and affection. And where there is love and affection, there is also some minute independence. So Krishna does not like to micromanage. Like if we are feeling something in our heart, but if we still feel that, I think I can manage. So Krishna's not interested in intervening because he wants his son to, do what he wants to do. But when the son says, Father, I think I tried, but I really need your help. So Krishna likes to embrace such a child. I would like to give an example that a father had, let's say 3 children, and he took them to a store and got them chocolates. And all of them, they're ripping the wrapper of the chocolate and they start eating. And the first is eating, the second is eating, but the third one, he opens up the wrapper of the chocolate and he takes the first piece of the chocolate and asks his father, like, do you want, like, I would like to give it to you. Oh. So the father now takes that first piece and puts it in his mouth, and he also picks up the child. Now, the father is actually not devoid or bereft of chocolates. He can probably he could probably
buy the shop.
But he was only interested in that affectionate dependence and the loving reciprocation and call that the child has. So similarly, Krishna, in our heart, he can solve all problems, no doubt. But he's waiting for that innocent, sincere dependence that we can have in him. Wow. And we can give the chocolate of our sincerity and he can accept and pick us up in his hands. So although he's there within us, we have to depend on him. It's just like playing flute. There's enough oxygen inside, but by breathing, you don't get the fun that you get by blowing it into the holes of the flute and ragas coming out. This is Jiva Goswami's example. To say that God is inside, so just like oxygen in the lungs, but we don't find that pleasure just by having him within there. But when that breath is used through the flute, ragas are created. So when we interact with him through affectionate love or bhakti, then the rag comes out. Now it's very interesting. It's a play of word because rag in classical music is a string of different notes put together. But in Sanskrit, the word rag means affection or attachment.
Right.
So when you invest your breath into the flute, ragas come out, beautiful, intoxicating ragas. So Krishna's there inside. But when you invest time and energy into the flute of devotion, then the rag or attachment of loving relationship develops and blossoms.
Wow. That's wonderful. Because it's, he says himself, I'm neutral. He says, I'm neutral to everyone. So if you want something more than neutrality, then you've got to put something into it. We want love. We want deep connection with him. So, it makes so much sense that, yes, he is there everywhere. But to have a personal, intimate relationship with him, we must call out. We must speak to him. We must treat him like a real person. So with that in mind, if we could then move on to actually understanding the power of this mantra meditation. Why can't I just call out? I hear this many times. ठीक है, okay, भगवान है, मैं हूँ, और मैं अपने तरीके से मैं उनके साथ जुड़ना चाहूंगी. Like, I want to do it my own way. मुझे ये सब rituals और ये सब पसंद नहीं है. मुझे कहते हैं लोग कि इसका क्या मतलब, ये मंत्र में क्या जरूरत है. So maybe if we could just understand the power of a mantra and how it's different to normal meditation.
So this is quite a loaded question. So I'll probably take it in phases.
Yes.
Because basically there are 3 phases in this question. The first is before we get to the power of mantra, there's power of sound in the first place. And then the second step would be what is the difference between sound and mantra? What is the definition of the word mantra? And then what is the effect of mantra for me over any other, let's say, silent meditation or
exactly,
or meditation according to my own, practice.
Yeah.
Fulfillment or like that. So maybe we'll start off with the first step of just the power of sound in general, and then we'll take it. We'll build the discussion ahead. So it's interesting that Mother Nature teaches us so many lessons about sound in itself. Like we can stand under a tree and just clap our hands, and you can see the birds are really afraid. They don't even know who's clapping. They don't see the person clapping, but they just get scared and they start flying out just by the sound.
Wow.
So sound is such an integral part of our existence, not just for humans, it going down to birds, plants. There have been research studies documented with effect seen on plants. Like you can have sensors on the leaves of the plants to see how they respond. And you can play classical music, Indian classical, Western classical, or you can have other kinds of music, as a contrast. Or even words. There was one experiment that I remember where a certain scientist, he spoke to the first plant that I hate you, I don't like you, you're not useful, you don't bear fruits and flowers, I don't need you, and think, derogatory, defamatory words, which are not generally appreciated and not liked. And that was spoken to a plant, and on the other side, another plant in seclusion, the scientist went and spoke that you're so beautiful, you're so attractive, I'm so happy that you're there in my house. And the effect was seen that the first plant, who was subjected to very harsh, rude, hate speech, you could say, withered away in time. And the second plant was doing much better. So what to speak of sound on birds, even plants? The famous example of the Solomon Islands, where when the tribes in the Solomon Islands, when they want to uproot a tree and they can't do it with proper tools, they just hold hands around a tree and swear words at the tree, and
oh my gosh,
and within 2 or 3 weeks, the tree which survived for hundreds of years starts drying up in 3 weeks. Which is
my goodness, I did not know that.
The power of sound. Even, of course, famous example of deer getting attracted to the flute sound of a hunter. We find that again and again in the Bhagavatam. But in real life, we do see that when a hunter plays the flute, the deer just forgets that it's a deer and this is a human hunter. The deer goes close to the hunter and licks his feet and smells him and goes around in happiness, and he puts the flute aside, and reality dawns in the eyes and the face of the deer that I'm a deer and I'm not so dear to this human being. So
my goodness, yes.
I just need to run away. And then the hunter puts the flute back and the same deer comes back. So we can see the power of sound in birds, in plants, in trees, in deer, and then what to speak of human beings. History has been has given enough proof and evidence. Talk about all the big dictators. Talk about Stalin. Talk about Mussolini. Talk about Hitler. Talk about how they could speak and bring in a certain consciousness in the people. So you could either make or break humans on the basis of sound.
Wow.
Everyone likes to hear sweet words, affectionate words. And at the same time, when we hear some metal crushing sound, it sends shivers down our spine. So we see that sound is very, very integral, very, very integral in all walks of life, whether it's animals, it's insects, even mosquitoes. What to speak of others? Like nowadays, we have a different, let's say, fumes are given out in the room, a coil which knocks off the mosquitoes. But previously, we had a certain vibration which would knock off the mosquitoes.
Wow.
So insects, birds, trees, plants, humans, everyone.
It's innate.
What's that?
It's innate. It's within our DNA. It's about the vibration is not something anyone is free from. Meaning it's a part of our being, our creation.
Our soul. Yes, absolutely. Even from a spiritual perspective, when you see, or let's say from an interreligious perspective, the Bible says that in the beginning there was sound. And the Vedas say that Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavaye Muhyanti Yatsurayah, that Krishna, he actually played the flute, and the flute sound entered the heart of Brahmaji in the first verse of the Bhagavad. And even the scientists, I mean, they may not believe in God, but they talk about a big sound, Big Bang.
They get it. It's a little bit delayed, but they get it. In the end, they
Right,
got it.
right. So
Wow.
sound is certainly very, very, very integral. We can't. Nobody here can say that we can, be independent of the effect of sound. This is why even if you see the phones, they have alarm clocks which have increasing sound. When you press the snooze button, the sound increases. It's not visual, it's not by touch, but it's by sound.
Right.
Because
Absolutely.
if someone's sleeping, you stand in front of him, he's not going to wake up. And even if you tell him, please wake up, he's probably going to turn on the other side and go to sleep.
Right.
But
Right.
it's the ear which works even when we're asleep.
It permeates much deeper.
Right. It's the ear which develops first for the child, even in the womb of the mother. And the sense of hearing is the last thing to leave the body as we die. As the sense is shut, the hearing is still there.
Wow.
So the first thing to enter and the last thing to leave is the sense of hearing. So if normal alarm clocks with material sound can wake us up from material sleep, why can't a special mantra, which is a spiritual sound, wake us up from spiritual sleep?
बिल्कुल क्या बात है जय हो wow okay well on that note because we could we could keep going, we could really keep going through, and I'm really appreciating this, but that really is just highlighting the difference between silent meditation and mantra meditation, because I know many people, I'm going to use what you've said in response next time, because many people say I prefer silent meditation, मुझे ये सारा भजन कीर्तन ये सब पसंद नहीं है मैं मेडिटेट करता हूँ, मैं भगवान के बारे में सोचता हूँ लेकिन मुझे साइलेंटली अच्छा लगता है. So maybe to the next point, that what is the difference, I'm really hearing the difference between the two, if you wanted to.
So sound could be anything, right? Sound absolutely doesn't have a definition. It could be anything, absolutely anything. But mantra has a very specific meaning. In Sanskrit, the words that are used, they have a very specific meaning. Like I'll just give you an example. In English, the word for son, son, is just son, whether he's the first son, whether he's the last son, whether he's someone dear to us, whether he's a good son, bad son, obedient son, responsible son, he's just son, son, right? But in Sanskrit, it's not like that. There are different words for the same relation. There is sunuhu, sutaha, putraha, atmajaha. So different words are there in Sanskrit for the same, because they all have different meanings. The son who is dearmost to the mother is called as atmaja, because generally children are born from the body, but the word atma means the soul. So he who's so dear to me that it seems that the others are born through the body, but this one's born through my soul.
Wow.
And ja means Janma. And similarly, the word putra, right? We oftentimes say, Mera putra hai, Mera suputra hai. But the word putra has a very specific meaning in Sanskrit. And I'm linking that to the word mantra. So the word putra means, the word pum in Sanskrit means hell. Pum. So even if the father was, let's say, irresponsible or very sinful, and he was breaking different moral and ethical principles, and if he happens to go to hell for punishment, let's say, which is pum, that son who is so responsible, so spiritual, so capable that he can not just protect himself, but even protect his father and his ancestors, and successfully get them back from hell to sound comfortable existence of happiness. That person is called putra, because the syllable tra in Sanskrit means trayate, to rescue, to protect. So this is why Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, he says paritranaya sadhunam, to protect the sadhus I come, right? So pum means hell, and tra means protect. So he who can protect the forefathers, the ancestors, even from sinful or unhappy conditions to a happy state of life, is called putra.
Wow.
So similarly, the same syllable tra has been used here. Mantra, very simple to understand. Man means mind, and tra means trayate, that which rescues, that which protects, that which helps. Our mind has anxiety. It has lamentation of the past. It has fear of the present. It has anxiety and hankering of the future. So the mind is always in a state of, I often like to say that the mind is like a bird with two wings, past and future. It keeps flapping. And past, it's all about, he did this to me, she did this to me. I wish I had not done that, or I wish I had done that which I didn't. So it's all about lamentation. And in the future, I don't know what's going to happen. I hope this happens, but if this doesn't happen, I hope that happens. But if both of them don't happen, I don't know what I'm going to do. Plan A, plan B, plan C. So these two wings of the bird, called the past and the future, and the bird of mind, which is always flapping, and the mind goes all over the place. Mantra is that sound, that frequency, that holy spiritual sound, which can cut off those wings and make the bird sit in the present in a state of calm, serenity, and peace, spiritual joy and fulfillment and satisfaction, to the state of the soul, that whatever has happened, to see only good in that. Whatever is going to happen is only good. I'm sitting on the lap of the Supreme Lord. I don't have to worry. He will take care. ठाकुर के गोदी में बैठे हैं, वो ले जाएंगे. मैं जब चल नहीं पाऊंगा, वो उठाकर ले जाएंगे मुझे सोचने की आवश्यकता नहीं. मैं उनका नाम पुकारूंगा और दुनिया के काम करूंगा. मेरे जो कर्तव्य हैं, उत्तरदायित्व हैं, इनको मैं अच्छे से निभाऊंगा और प्रभु के नाम रटते रहूंगा. दुनिया के काम करते रहियो, राधे श्याम जपते रहियो, ऐसे वृंदावन में कहते हैं.
बिल्कुल.
तो इस प्रकार दैट स्पिरिचुअल साउंड, वो आध्यात्मिक ध्वनि जो प्रभु के नाम से अंकित है, जो हमारे मन में जो ग्लानि है या जो क्लेश है, जो दुख प्रदायक वस्तु है, इनका निवारण करती है, उन्मूलित करती है, उनको पूर्ण रूप से निकाल देती है और मन को सुख पूर्ण, प्रसन्नता पूर्ण और आनंद प्रदायक भाव से स्थित रखती है. उस ध्वनि को, उस शब्द को मंत्र कहते हैं. So there is a difference between sound, which could be anything, and mantra. Just like there could be a difference between any son and putra.
क्या बात है, क्या बात है. So just like there could be there's different ways to call out to someone. I have 4 kids, and they know, just by the way I'm saying their name, they know that mommy is in this mood. So that's also, it's quite powerful that you said 2 things. You said we call out, हम भगवान को पुकारते हैं इस मंत्र से कि you are in control now. So there's I'm hearing 2 things. One is the mood that we are uttering that sound with, and the second thing you've mentioned is the actual difference between the sound vibration of uttered words. So either I can call my son Putra, or I can call him Atmaja, or it's also the way, I can also say Putra very lovingly, and I can also say Atmaja very angrily. So it seems that both are important. But we'll get to that maybe a bit later. I'm digressing, but I just love the point about calling out. It's a prayer. It's a prayerful mood, especially the mantra that we are talking about, in the sense that I heard there used to be mantras where you could bring people alive again. We're talking about meditative mantras for self-realization or self-actualization, something like that. But maybe we can now address the different types of mantras.
Sure.
What is the purpose of it?
So basically, there are different mantras, all in Sanskrit, calling out to different incarnations and different qualities of God. They are the different names, nama, as they call it. It's interesting, in Sanskrit, the word for the name of the Lord is called Nam. And it's very, very interesting. It has a very interesting meaning. जब हम ठाकुर के सामने झुकते हैं, उसको नमन कहते हैं.
क्या बात है
ना? जब हम ठाकुर के सामने झुकते हैं, तब उसको नमन कहते हैं. पर ऐसा एक पथ जब हम पर चलें, जिसपे ठाकुर झुक जाते हैं भक्त के सामने, उसको नमन नहीं नाम कहते हैं.
क्या
so
बात है.
so that which by which we bow down to the Supreme Lord is called namaha, but by the process by which he gets controlled by affection and love, is that process is called nam. It's the manifestation of the same thing that makes him bow down to the love and the affection of the devotee. So there are different mantras with different meanings, and oftentimes I think this is a good platform to even address this point. Oftentimes people ask this question, that why do I have to like chant these names or these mantras? Why can't I just say something in my mother tongue, for example? You know, or why can't I just say something, you know, what I'm feeling inside? Sure, we could definitely do that. But there is a very specific research which comes to my mind with respect to the power of mantras over just, you know, casual feelings or casual articulation of words. So this research was done by a research scholar and professor at AIMS, which is All India Institute for Medical Sciences.
Medical science.
Especially in the department of NMR, which is nuclear study. So basically where they have, study. So where they were doing this research of magnetic resonance, and they were seeing the imaging spectrum analysis. So there, this professor found a very interesting study in this regard. Very, very interesting. And what she did was she brought in 30 volunteers for this analysis over 9 months of study. Basically, they were volunteers who were interested, you know, they were part of this research to know the power of mantras, the power of sound, just prayers, and to basically have a MR spectrum analysis to see the activity, the distribution activity of neurochemical activity, basically in the brain. So they will analyze the neurochemical activity in the brain over different specimens. Those who are chanting a certain mantra, and they basically had 4 classifications. So the first being someone who was not doing anything, and the second was someone who was meditating whatever they wanted. So in Bengali they call it as joto mat tato pot.
Tato pot.
Jaisi mati vaisi gati, you know, as in say in Hindi. So that was the second. So first was someone who was not practicing anything, and the second was someone who was practicing according to his own, you know, desire and whatever he wanted to meditate. The third was someone who was meditating on the mantra, but in its other languages, let's say in English, or the meaning of the mantra in English, or the meaning of the mantra in Hindi or Marathi. So they were meditating on the meaning of the mantra in contrast to the mantra. You see?
Right. Yes.
So the first was someone who didn't do at all. Second was someone who wanted to meditate the way they wanted. The third was someone who was meditating on the meaning of the mantra in other languages, colloquial languages. And the fourth was someone who actually meditated and articulated and chanted the mantra. And it was a specimen over 30, it was an analysis over 30 volunteers. And it wasn't just a day or two, it was over 9 months of practice. So they were going through this spectrum analysis, MR spectrum, you know, imaging basically, to see what is the distribution analysis of neurochemicals in the brain, so which are found in the neurons. So basically, you're seeing the neural activity, and they were trying to map the left and the right hemisphere of the brain. So basically, the frontal side, which talks about the brain thoughts and the activities, and they were seeing how it maps with each other. Is it symmetric? Is it asymmetric? What's the distribution of this neural work like, this distribution activity? And they were seeing different neurochemicals like creatine and glutamate and so many of them. They were analyzing multiple neurochemicals to see how they were functioning and how it was. So when they actually saw this, they saw that someone who did not meditate at all, it was very erratic. The distribution patterns that was seen was very, very erratic. It wasn't something that was balanced. The distribution was not symmetric. It was asymmetric. And it went on increasing. Someone who meditated on something systematically for 9 months was a little better than someone who didn't meditate at all. Something better, but not significant. And way more significant was someone who meditated with the meaning. But the highest spectrum was seen the highest distribution balance, we could say, was seen in someone who meditated on the Sanskrit mantras from the scriptures. So
With
this
meaning.
was in such a way that the patterns, if you see, was so symmetrical that the neurochemical activity of the left brain and the right brain hemisphere, the left and right hemisphere, was perfectly in sync, and that was bringing up a balanced distribution to mention that this is someone who's a balanced person. So
Wow.
even professors from AIMS, from the Department of Nuclear Magnetic Resonance, are speaking about this and publishing articles and papers on this. So I think that speaks a lot about vocal meditation over silent meditation, and even vocal meditation over just other words of different languages. So this is
wow, that's a really profound study. My background is also in biochemistry, and I did neural imaging for many years. So I'm going to have to look this up. This is very, very incredible. And especially because I also like Sanskrit. I'm not very good at it, but I like it. And it's proving that actually these Sanskrit mantras have some different power. It's not just the same as saying something in English, maybe. According to our belief in the Vedic wisdom, these sound vibrations are coming directly from the Supreme. It's a different vibration. Like we said earlier, every sound has a different vibration and has a different effect on us. And so this study, to me, when I'm hearing it, I also get encouraged to study Sanskrit more and utter the sounds in this native Devanagari, the language of the gods. So two things for me: that mantra is not just something made up by one of us, and it has a power that we can't truly explain, but we can see the effect in this example you've given.
Right.
So thank you for that. And
in fact, this is just one of the many research analysis that have been done on mantras, and from a scientific perspective. It's not just in AIMS in India that this has been done. It's done all over the place. In Harvard Medical School, in fact, in Germany, a scientist by the name Ernst Schladny, he did a research on cymatic photography. So basically, cymatic photography is when sound is mapped to a visual. So you give an effect, the sound goes through a certain process, and then you see the visual of it. So that's called a cymatic photography. He was a cymatic photographist and a scientist in that department. So what he did was also pretty much very conclusive. He actually inverted a sound speaker. You could have a sound speaker. He inverted that and filled it up with water. And he basically played mantras through it. And with proper lighting, he saw the effect on the water. It's easy said than done, but he actually did it over many days and different processes and steps in the process.
Right.
He inverted a sound speaker and filled it up with water and played different mantras through it. And with proper lighting arrangement, he took images, visual images. And they had the most brilliant, systematic, organized, ordered, diamond-structured surfaces.
Wow.
He did many analysis like that. He also did like a keyboard analysis where he had a keyboard and he had a metal plate connected to the keyboard. And he had sand granules on the metal plate. And then when he played different keys on the keyboard, the effect of the sand granules on the metal plate was also, through cymatic photography, was pictured.
Right.
So, but he said, more than the sand grains, the water in the sound speaker was more conclusive. And now why I'm saying that is because our body and our brain both are 80% water. So you can imagine, if the effect of mantras on an inverted sound speaker filled with water is so impressive.
Beautiful.
You can imagine how much effect it brings in on our brain and in general in our body, because we are 80% water from a material perspective.
Wow. So also noticing that you've mentioned that there was a lot of symmetry and balance in both the researches. It's about balancing our mental activity. Like by repeating mantras, we're recalibrating our neural activity. We're actually aligning our internal structure. It's not just a mental thing. So I find these two things very profound that you've shared, that it is actually, and you can see it physically, that it's bringing symmetry and balance and, the sense of, which is key to have any kind of peace. So
absolutely.
Wow.
Whether through yoga, whether through science, whether through spirituality, whether through Ayurveda, they all come to the same point of mantras and the power of mantras on the body. So whether it's Patanjali Yoga Sutra, whether it's Ayurveda, whether it's Bhagavatam, or whether it's Ernst Slatny from Germany, they come to consensus on that point. Even I remember reading another place about the effect of mantras, again bringing in science and spirituality and yoga and Ayurveda together. It said that our body has different domains, and the physical structural domain is what we know. And there's intra-communication through blood vessels and lymphatic vessels. But beyond that, there is a physiological level also, which we know about from Ayurveda and from yoga as Kapha Pitta Vayu. And then there is a psychological level inside, another domain of our existence, which talks about Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. And then there is another level inside which talk about the Pancha Kosha, which is Annamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, Jnanamaya Kosha, and Anandamaya Kosha. And after that, we have the mind level, mind, intelligence, and ego. So the mantra goes through these layers and works on the mind.
Wow.
So it's interesting that the structural level may be intra-connected through blood vessels, and the physiological may be connected through Kapha Pitta Vayu, and psychological may be connected through Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. And the Panchakoshas are also intra-connected, but all of them are also interconnected. So if the innermost layer of the mind is agitated, you can see it affects and brings in, let's say, an effect to all other domains or all other layers in our existence. But if the mind and the consciousness is peaceful by sound spiritual meditation and vibration, then that radiates through not just intra but intercommunication of all the different layers. So the mind which is happy brings in a body which is healthy.
That's very interesting. So you're saying that mantra can directly affect all these layers that are functioning within us and affect the mind directly. And then the mind in turn affects our health and our physical condition.
Absolutely.
And it seems completely contradictory to how the world is practicing meditation and yoga, because generally, हम जब yoga सुनते हैं तब आसन कर रहे हैं लोग. They're not actually, they're approaching the physical aspect first and trying to then get to the mind. And it seems almost impossible. And actually, we know from this wisdom that it is impossible. You cannot truly control the mind by simply doing yogasanas. So more, I'm just hearing that it makes so much more sense to be uttering a mantra while we're meditating to help the mind, as opposed to being at the mercy of the mind, which is already uncontrolled. If we're silently meditating, we are at the mercy of this mind.
Right.
So if we could just maybe discuss a little bit more about why silent meditation would actually be much harder to do than mantra meditation, and how mantra meditation truly is. Why is it said that it's the easiest way? It's the simplest way and the most powerful way to meditate.
Well, we have spoken enough science, so I would like to move to spiritual aspect now, because we have different kinds of audience. So I would like to speak from the Shastra now on, verbal meditation over silent meditation. In the Shastras, there are many references about actually uttering mantra and how that is more powerful than just meditating something in the mind. Very specifically, we find in the Hari Bhakti Vilas, which is a very beautiful compilation of sweet verses on different topics. This topic has been addressed. and it has been mentioned. Adyachit smaranam Vishnu bahu ayasane sadhyate oshta spandana matrena kirtanam tu tathovaram. The Acharya has mentioned that Adyachit Smaranam Vishnu, that you can do smaran of Vishnu or meditation in the mind, but Bahu Ayasena Sadhyate, it fructifies after a long time. So someone who's trying to do silent meditation, just to make another point, we previously said that it is impossible for someone who's just working on the bodily level to come to the mind. But I would just say that I wouldn't say it's impossible, but I would just say it takes a long, long time, really long time. Because in Sanskrit, we have the word Vishwas, right? Vishwas. So V means Vishesha Rupena in a very special way. And Shwasa means breathing.
Right.
So it is described that they're interconnected. When the breathing is proper, the faith in God will rise.
Wow.
Right? Shwasa, Vishwasa. When the breathing is regulated, eventually the faith in God will rise. But if the faith in God rises, Vishwasa, then even Shwasa becomes Vishesha. You see? So in this verse also it is said, Adyachit Smaranam Vishnu Bahu Ayasena Sadhyate. That silent meditation or contemplative meditation may succeed, but after a long, long time. But Oshta Spandana Matrena, just by moving one's lips and the tongue and vibrating spiritual sound, Kirtanam tu Tato Varam. It is called Kirtanam, and it is considered to be way more fruitful. Way more fruitful.
Wow.
In fact, in the Shastra, it is described how fruitful chanting a mantra is over just remembering some, silent meditation. Another verse in the Naradiya Puran that I like to quote here, it describes Japato Harinamani Sthane Shatgunadhikah Atmanam cha Punatyuchai Japa Shrotran Punati cha. That Japato Harinamani, if someone chants the name of Hari, Sthane Shata Guna Adhika, then it is 100 times more powerful than just remembering him in the mind.
Wow.
So verbal meditation or mantra meditation, according to this verse, is 100 times more powerful than silent meditation. And what is the reason for that? Is it a sectarian, fanatical approach? No, very logical. Because when there is silent meditation of the mind, to the maximum, it can purify only the self. But when there is verbal, audible utterance of a mantra, then the person who's chanting and the person who listens to the sound, both get spiritually rejuvenated and purified by that sound vibration. This is why Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, of all the processes, Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtan.
Krishna Sankirtan.
That the best process to meditate is actually to come together. And who in this world doesn't like to sing and dance? Everybody. In fact, people pay money to get into a club or a pub. And you don't even have to pay that. You can just come in a spiritual circle and sing and with musical instruments in a very nice, attractive, very soothing, calming, relaxing, rejuvenating manner. We can call out to God, and that is considered to be way more powerful. And before we get on to another point, I want to take one more reference from the scripture. This comes from the Puranas again by Vyasadeva, and he gives his perspective in this regard. This has also been quoted by Srila Sanatan Goswami in a book called Brihad Bhagavatamrita. So that's the reference for the verse. And Vyasadeva says, Manyamahe kirtanameva sattamam lolatmakaikaswaridhi smarat smrite vachi swayukte manasi shruto yatha divyat paratapyavakrutcha atmavad. So he says that more than silent meditation, chanting is better. And what is the logic behind it? Because three things.
We lost you there. Oh, is everyone else able to hear? Wow. I am thoroughly enjoying this talk. Is my computer frozen or is his? Hare Krishna. If anybody could respond, whether it's mine or his. Okay, so it might have been his computer. So I'm just going to repeat what I've heard from him. that there is a way that we can meditate silently. That is possible, but it will take a long time. It will take, it takes a long time to reach the result. But if we meditate using mantras, it is much more easier. It is, you're back. Sorry about that.
I'm really sorry. I don't know what happened.
It's okay. It's okay. I crashed twice in the whole thing crashed. So it happens. You were telling us about that shloka from, yes.
From the Puranas, yes. So there
Oh.
Vyasadeva mentions that the three benefits of actually audibly uttering a mantra, he says 3 organs of the body or 3 senses are absorbed. And he very beautifully puts it in Sanskrit. He says, Vachi swayukte manasi shrutau tatha. He says, Vachi, the tongue gets absorbed. Shrutau, the ears get absorbed. Swayukte manasi tatha. And also the mind is absorbed. But in silent meditation, only the mind is absorbed.
Wow. That's so beautiful. I mean, that even you're saying that you can silently meditate, but doesn't that take like years of practice? Because most of the time, if I try to sit silently and meditate, I find it quite difficult because there's so much going on. I've got so many lists and so many children, and so, it's just so much chaos. So not only would it take longer for the result to bear fruit, but it also takes longer for me to get in the zone. But as soon as I start uttering a mantra, like, uttering a name of Krishna, immediately I'm able to connect with what I'm saying. So it makes sense to me what you're saying.
Also in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that to meditate, the most important thing is shuchau deshe. One should sit in a clean place. Now, clean doesn't just mean physically clean, in a pure place. So where do we go for a pure place? Where do we go for a place without agitation? Our phones are constantly ringing and the doorbells are ringing and the pop-ups and the notifications are coming. And we get distracted by an advertisement to the side. Yes. So that's so quality and quantity needed to get there. But mantra, very quickly. It can bear fruit very quickly.
Okay. And you said it engages, because it's engaging the tongue, the ears, and the mind. And obviously, the biggest distraction are those senses. Those are the most difficult to tame while we're even doing silent meditation. So I can really connect with that, because if your tongue is busy and your ears are busy, it's just 2 less things to worry about for the mind. So very, very powerful. Moving on slightly, if you don't mind, because we have kind of gone an hour and 20 minutes when we haven't taken any questions yet, but we're totally thrilled to be here as long as you can spare. How do we know the different types of mantras? How do we gauge, there's different, we're talking about chanting God's names. When we talk about connecting in this sense, meditation, we generally speak of, okay, we're going to utter a mantra that will connect me with the Supreme Person. How do we know what is a good mantra? How do we know one is better than the other? Do they all yield similar things? Can I just chant God, 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 God? Or can I, you know where I'm going with this.
Right. So basically, to answer any question, we must look to the scriptures. We have to go through the wisdom texts of the Eastern philosophy to see what the Bhagavad Gita or the Bhagavatam or what do the Vedas talk about, because that's the root. And if we don't follow the scriptures, then the Bhagavad Gita actually says, Yah Shastra Vidhim Utsrujya Vartate Kamakaratah Nasa Siddhim Avapnoti Na Sukham Na Param Gatim. The Bhagavad Gita mentions that Yah Shastra Vidhim Utsrujya. If someone takes a path against the scripture, then Vartate Kamakaratah. He gets lost. Such a person gets lost. And nasa siddhim avapnoti, he doesn't get any perfection. And what to speak of sukham, and what to speak of param gatim, or happiness and the highest destination. And it's interesting, Krishna mentions the word na 3 times for emphasis. Na sasiddhim avapnoti, na sukham, na param gatim. He could have just said na once and then included all of that. But
Right.
Krishna is very clear about what he speaks. And this is Bhagavad Gita, straight from the Lord's mouth. As in English, they say straight from the horse mouth. We say straight from the Lord's mouth.
Right.
So what does the scripture say with this regard? Like what to chant in this specific age of Kali Yuga, where there's quarrel and hypocrisy, there's so much confusion, there is agitation, irritation, provocation, there's so many things happening. Stress and anxiety, and we're being tossed in the Kurukshetra battle every single day. So what's the way? What does the scripture talk in this regard? So there are many references in Shastra which talk about what to chant in this age. Very specifically, the Kali Santarana Upanishad, which is one of the Upanishads with the name Kali again, Kali Santarana. That is an Upanishad which is mentioned for those in Kali Yuga to cross over problems. And in the Kali Santarana Upanishad, it has been mentioned, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Iti Shodashakam Namnam, Kali Kalmashanashanam, Nata Parataropaya Sarva Vedeshu Drishyate. So the same question that we are asking each other, Narad Muni asked Brahmaji in the Kali Santarana Upanishad. And Brahmaji is the best person there because he has 4 heads, so he can parallelly study 4 scriptures at the same time. He has 4 mouths, he has 4 heads, 4 brains to process. He can study the 4 Vedas. So Brahmaji answers Narad Muni by saying, he chants the Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. And then he says iti, which means this. Shodashakam nam. Shodashaka in Sanskrit, Shodasha means 16. Shodashakam nam. This mantra of 16 names, Kali Kalmashanashanam, it will destroy all the kalmash. Kali ka jo bhi kalmash hai, uska vinash hoga. Avashya नष्ट विनष्ट हो जाएंगे, सब उन्मूलित हो जाएंगे. And नातः परतर उपाय, इससे बढ़कर दूसरा कोई उपाय है नहीं. There's नातः परतर उपाय. There is nothing equal or greater than this. Who's saying? Sri Brahmovacha. And then he adds a very beautiful phrase at the end, which seals it up. सर्व वेदेषु दृश्यते. मैंने सब वेद पढ़ लिए, देख लिए, परख लिए, और इससे सरल मार्ग, इससे सरल कोई मंत्र, उच्चारण के हिसाब से देखें या अर्थ के हिसाब से देखें या योग्यता अयोग्यता, पात्रता अपात्रता, स्थान अस्थान के हिसाब से देखें.
Wow.
Sarva Vedeshu Drishyate. I haven't seen, Brahma is telling Narad Muni, I haven't seen anything which even comes close to this. So basically, the names of Hari to seal it up. Chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, which has 3 fundamental names, Hari, Krishna, and Rama. Or, placed in a very wonderful, scientifically logical, orderly fashion. 8 names for Hare or Hari, and 4 for Krishna and 4 for Ram.
Wow.
So very wonderfully arranged. These 16 words also, another science behind it is we basically have 16 layers for the soul. We have 16 layers which cover the soul. We have the 5 working senses. They're called very famously in Hindi or Sanskrit as the karmendriyas. And the karmendriyas are basically the hands, the legs, the voice, and the private parts. So that's 5. And then there is Gyanendriyas, or knowledge acquiring senses, and which are again 5. The eyes, the nose, the sense of taste, and then ears and sense of touch. So 5 plus 5, 10. And the Raja on the top, the king on top is the mind, 11. And then the body is Pancha Mahabhutas, earth, water, fire, air, ether. So the soul is covered by these 16 layers, according to the Kali Santarana Upanishad. And Brahmaji tells Narad Muni, these 16 words actually pierce through all these 16 layers and give the soul
Wow.
what the soul actually wants, which is love for God. Prem. Krishna Prem.
Kya baat hai. Wow. So
Yeah.
16 layers need 16 names to pierce through it, and chanted in a specific way, in a specific mantra. I can't just chant Krishna, 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 Krishna. Or I mean I could, but I'm assuming that this repetition in a very particular way is there for a reason. And as you were saying, that it is specifically given for our age, this age of Kali, where we are quite dull with our intelligence. We're limited with our understanding. We're constantly feeling agitated and confused and lost and hopeless. And I love that you said that Lord Brahma said, you know what? All the kalmasha, whatever ayogyata you have, we're not really capable of going too deep and focusing for too long. It's almost like, don't worry about it. We've empowered it enough that it will overcome all of our limitations.
Right.
So
I also want to include all our listeners to the fact that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Nam Nam Akari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shakti. So all the names of the Supreme Lord, they have the same power. They have the same potency to give us liberation. So if someone wants to chant Krishna, 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 he will definitely be purified. There is no doubt about it. If someone chants Rama, 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 or the names of Hari, or Vishnu, or Radha, or whatever, different sampradayas, they have different ways to approach the Supreme Lord. Like, for example, one sampradaya would have Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, perfectly fine. Another would have Om Namo Narayanaya, perfectly fine. Someone would have Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, perfectly fine. The Varkari Sampradaya in Maharashtra may have Ramakrishna Hari, Bolo Ramakrishna Hari, Jai Ramakrishna Hari, perfectly fine.
Wow.
Maybe some other Sampradaya may have,
Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama.
Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, exactly. Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama. Another Sampradaya may have Radhe Krishna, Radhe Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Radhe Radhe, Radhe Sham, Sham Sham, Radhe Radhe. Or another Sampradaya may have, the Radha Vallabi Sampradaya may have Radha Vallabh, or Radha Vallabh Shri Hari. They may have Radha Nam.
Yeah.
Or so different Sampradayas have names of Vishnu Tattva. Again, this is the main thing. Worshipping Sitaram or Radha Krishna or Lakshmi Narayan. This is of paramount importance. So I just want to say that, yes, the mantra for Kali Yuga given in the Kali Santarana Upanishad is the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. But that doesn't mean someone chanting the names of Ramachandra is not going to get anything. No. There are scriptural references for the glories of Ram Nam, Krishna Nam, Hari Nam.
Yes.
So definitely. But there is definitely a meaning behind the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and why I stress that first. So I just wanted to make that point, because we may have listeners from different sampradayas or from different backgrounds.
Course.
And I offer my obeisances to each one of them with heart full of gratitude and affection from myself. So.
Wonderful. Okay, so if there are, if all the names of God are so powerful, Krishna is so powerful, then how to build the faith in this one particular mantra, then how to move forward, how to understand that this one is the one for this age, like how to act on it.
So you mean why this mantra is specified so much?
Yes.
Correct. So basically, this mantra is chanted by Srimati Radharani in Goloka Vrindavan. Radharani calls out to the Hare Krishna Mahamantra when she is in separation from Krishna. So this is very, very interesting that Radharani in Nitya Golok Dham, when she is in separation, जब श्रीमती राधारानी कृष्ण से विप्रलंभ या विरह भाव का अनुभव करती है, तो गोलोक वृंदावन में, गोलोक धाम में, नित्य वैकुंठ धाम में राधारानी इन 16 शब्दों में और 32 अक्षरों में बद्ध ये जो हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र है, इनका उच्चारण करती है अपने श्रीमुख से. So what that means for our English audience is that Radharani in Goloka Vrindavan is chanting this mantra with 16 words and 32 syllables. And the interesting thing is she calls out to Krishna in separation when she is feeling that mood of separation from Krishna. Now, what happens in Kali Yuga is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who's a combined incarnation of Radha and Krishna. It's Krishna coming in the mood of Radharani.
Yes.
Radharani is still busy chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare in Golok Vrindavan. And as we know, old habits die hard. So when Radharani comes in the heart of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that practice of chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra in Golok is still there. So therefore it is described, Sri Chaitanya Mukhodgirnam Hare Krishna iti varnakam Majjayanto Jagat Premi. It has been described that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when the volcano of Krishna Prem in his heart was erupting, and it finally exploded from his mouth, it came as these 16 words. Because Radharani chants, and Krishna takes that heart and comes as Chaitanya. So then now Krishna is also as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And because Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chanted the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, the followers in the Gaudiya Parampara take that mood, and we also chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra because it comes from the lips of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Wow. It's been infused multiple fold. It's not just it's not just power on its own. It's actually been infused with love again and again by the Supreme. Okay. So then why do I have such a hard time chanting all my rounds, Prabhu? Why can't I do it with full sincerity? And, why do I make excuses? Why, if it's such an easy way to achieve this deep sense of connection and love and perfection of our being, why does it seem so difficult to do it at times? Even though it's the easiest form of meditation, we still find excuses. What are the pitfalls?
So basically, when a master has a servant for a long time, and the servant says, "I'm going to leave your service and I have found another master," the master will try to bribe that servant and say, no, I can't be without you. Please don't leave me. कौन करेगा? तुम्हारे जैसे तो कोई मैं पूरे ब्रह्मांड में मैं नहीं पा सकता. कहाँ जाऊं मैं? ऐसा सेवक किनको मिलेगा? किनके सौभाग्य में होता है ऐसा? ऐसे कर करके then the boss somehow he tries to bribes and gets the servant back in track. And once he gets, then he starts chastising the servant because he knows the servant is not going to leave. Next time again, the servant says, I have to go. The servant will, flatter him and butter him and say, please be there. Why am I saying this to this question? Is because we have been serving a boss called as the mind for a long time. So many lifetimes. And now when we say, oh, wait a minute, Mr. Mind, Hindi mein Maniram kehte hain man ko. Mr. Maniram ji, Mr. Mind, I have to give up your service because I have found another master, which is Krishna. So what does the mind do? Oh, please don't, please be with me, please be with me. And the boss or the mind starts getting restless. This is why we see, anytime when we are in sync or accordance with the mind, there's no problem. Never does anyone have a problem surfing the internet. Never does anyone have a problem, Prabhu, I have a problem gossiping. I just can't gossip. No one has that problem. Right? We love to find faults. We love to gossip. We love
easy.
It's easy. Because the mind is, like a king, naturally like enjoying the spot. And we are in correspondence and accordance and surrender to the mind. But now when we start chanting Hare Krishna, the mind dozes off. When we are hearing Bhagavatam or Hari Katha, the mind dozes off. Whenever the mind feels that I am going to lose this servant to Krishna, I am going to lose this jiva to Krishna, then the mind will start getting restless. And then we, because of our eternal subordination under the mind, we give in to the mind and go to sleep or get distracted or give in to laziness or procrastination and all of these things. So it's a struggle, but when the going gets tough, the tough gets going. Everything is difficult, right? In life, everything is difficult. When we have to, let's say if we have an interview at 4 o'clock in the morning for getting into Google or Facebook or Apple or one of these companies at 4 o'clock in the morning, is there anyone who's going to sleep over at 4 o'clock?
No.
He'll be up. He'll be like checking his internet and light and his clothing and the answers to the questions at 3 o'clock in the morning. So when it's an interview, we can wake up. When a 10th grader, 12th grader has to give an exam, he wakes up at 4 o'clock and he studies. And a businessman, if he's told, you come to the airport, I'll give you a bag full of $1 million cash at 4 o'clock in the morning, I bet he'll be there at 3:30 because he doesn't want to miss the man.
Yeah.
But we can wake up for an interview, we can wake up for an exam, we can wake up for exchanging the briefcase, but we sleep in the morning when it comes to chanting. Why? Because we don't have appreciation and value for the holy name. We don't have appreciation. We have appreciation for the degree. If I pass through the exam, the degree. If I pass through the interview, the job. If I get the $1 million, so we have appreciation for the money. We have appreciation for the job. We have appreciation for the degree, the graduate, diploma or degree, whatever we are pursuing. So we see some value there, and therefore we are ready to sacrifice our sleep and get up and invest time. But we don't see any value in the name of the Lord. And this is why we don't feel like doing it. We don't have taste. We procrastinate. We feel lazy. We feel sleepy. And it's going to be tomorrow. Aaj kare so kal kare so parso. Itni bhi kya jaldi hai. Itni bhi kya jaldi hai. Jeena jo hai barso.
हे भगवान, हाँ बिल्कुल.
तो इस प्रकार आलस में चला जाता है. So two things basically. The mind doesn't let us because of his dominance over us. And second, we don't want to because we don't find any value in the holy name. So therefore, if we want to, we have to try to bring in some discipline to the mind. And at the same time, by reading and hearing more about the glories of the holy name of God, the appreciation for this jewel, this touchstone of Nama Chintamani will come in the heart. Then it'll be easy.
Wow. We're completely out of time, but I just can't bring myself to asking any final questions because I'm enjoying it more than anyone else. But I must touch on the topic, which was chant and be happy. Chant and be happy. If we were truly feeling the joy, I do feel happy. When I'm chanting, I genuinely feel, happiness. When we do kirtan and the children can even feel it, then why does the mind still win when it comes to doing this meditative hour-and-a-half block? Why does it still, or why does the happiness run out? What are the pitfalls? How come it's not a lasting sense of urgency and happiness? And also, we didn't touch upon how it brings us happiness, in case you wanted to also connect the joy of mantra chanting.
Sure. So it's like when you want to heat something, if you put it in a microwave oven for 5 seconds and take it out and keep it out for 10 seconds and put it back in the microwave oven for 5 seconds and take it out for 10 seconds, again, put it on for 5 seconds, it's never going to get hot. That doesn't mean the food is useless. That doesn't mean the microwave is useless. It just means we are not applying the process properly. So by we not experiencing happiness immediately, it doesn't mean that we are useless, therefore it's not working. And it's not that the mantra is useless, therefore it's not working. The mantra is perfect. We are trying to be sincere, but maybe we are not applying it the right way. Everything has a right process to apply. Everything has a right process. So the process for chanting the mantra is in focus. We can't multitask at that time. If you're chanting the mantra and looking at the phone, looking outside, talking to people, what's happening is that gives the mind an outlet to move around, to talk, to be absorbed in the conversation, to browse the phone, to look outside the window, to do so many things, to sleep and lay down and chant. So when we do these multiple things, the mind is not getting the heat that is needed. Like in the example of the microwave oven, we are taking it out and it's not getting hot. So the best way to do it is focus, to close our eyes, sit in one place and repeat the mantra. And now this is going to be very difficult because the mind will give excuses. My back is hurting. My legs are hurting. Okay, find a comfortable spot up on the chair. That's fine, but don't move. Just stay there like a statue. Sit there. Sit there for 10 minutes. Start off with 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Build the stamina. 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, 1 hour, 2 hours. It's like we're sitting on the ocean, the shore of a sea. And we're sitting there for 5 minutes and we're saying, the waves are not coming, and we leave and the waves come. And then when we come back, the waves leave. So similarly, if the person sits there on the shore for like 1 hour, he can see that the water will definitely come and touch his feet. But what we're doing is sitting there for 5 minutes and leaving. So then it's not getting the time to warm up the food of our consciousness, so to speak. But if we sit there, building our stamina, let's say we start with 10 minutes, 15 minutes, but we have to sit there. We have to. Bhaktivinoda Thakur in Harinam Chintamani explains that getting success in chanting is a colossal struggle. But what is interesting to note,
yes.
But what is interesting to note, it's easier to struggle in chanting japa than to struggle in another mother's womb again.
Wow.
If we don't chant the holy names and we don't get liberated and our consciousness doesn't get cleansed, then we have to get into another mother's womb. And punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, punarapi janani, jathare shayanam, ihasansare, bahudustare, kripaya apare, pahi murare. Bhaja Govindam, Govindam, Bhaja Mudhamate. Adi Shankaracharya says, Mudhamati. Someone who's distracted, Bhaja Govinda. He says 3 times. Govind ka bhajan karo, Govind ka bhajan karo, Govind ka bhajan karo. Hey Mudhamati, hey Vikshepitmati, distracted, agitated mind, bhajan karo. Bhagwan ka naam rato. Don't get into other things. So it's a struggle, but till a certain point. After that, it's only pleasure. It's like cycling on top of a mountain. We have to keep pedaling. We have to keep pedaling, and it's struggle. If you leave, it'll fall. So keep struggle, keep it going, keep pedaling. But once we come to the point of the peak, and then when we hit the other side of the mountain, even if you don't pedal, you'll come down by the slope. So chanting is like a projectile. There's little struggle. Like anything for that matter, learning classical music, you know, Pandit Bhimsen Joshi in one, again, Bharat Ratna, Pandit Bhimsen Joshi in one interview, Indian classical vocalist, said, it takes 7 lifetimes to perfect classical music. So perfecting anything in life, playing sitar, playing an instrument, computer programming, anything for that matter, takes some hard work. But after a certain point, you love doing it, right? So chanting is like that. It may take some time to get into that, but it's just lack of discipline. So we need 2 things. Every single day. If you do it like one day and don't do it for 10 days, it's not going to work.
No.
Every day. And that too, the right quantity, not just 2 minutes every day. For a medicine to work, 2 things are important: the dosage and the frequency. The dosage could be, let's say, 3 times a day. The dosage could be 3 tablets. And the frequency could be 3 times a day. So if you take 1 tablet 3 times or 3 tablets 1 time, not going to work. It's going to be 3 tablets 3 times. So minimum, let's say 10 minutes, 15, 20, 30, 1 hour, 2 hours to start with as the dosage, and frequency every day. And when we do that, just for 6 months, try it for 6 months. If you don't have success, leave it off. Try it. There's nothing wrong in trying. Paisa waisa to kuch jaane nahi wala. You're not going to lose any money. Try it for 6 months sincerely. If it doesn't work, chhod do.
Bilkul.
But I'm saying with confidence that आप छोड़ नहीं पाएंगे. क्योंकि इसमें रस है. और ये रस क्या रस है? ये जब करते हैं. So I'll get back to English for our English audience. When we chant the holy name, what actually happens is, this is certainly very, very interesting now. Again, I'm going to get a little philosophical, but it's very fascinating. When we talk about again Patanjali Yoga Sutras and Ayurveda and different layers in our body, our consciousness basically has impressions, different kinds of impressions. When we do a good activity in Sattva Gun, it has a Sattvic imprint. Usko Sanskrit mein samskar kehte hain. That's the term for an impression in Sanskrit. It's called a samskar. So when you do something in the mode of goodness, it brings in a, let's say, a white spot in the consciousness. When you do something in the mode of rajas or passion, it brings in a red spot. And when you do something in tamas, evil activities, let's say it's a black spot. So our consciousness at this point is filled with white, red, and black spots throughout. And they stop us, these impressions stop us from actually being happy and touching and tapping into the anandamayobhyasat nature of the soul to be happy. So what the mantra meditation does is it cleanses the samskar impressions. It takes off by bringing in spiritual impressions. And when the spiritual impressions are got in, the mirror of this consciousness is taken out. The dust on the mirror is taken out. Just like we see in our homes when we have a mirror, and if it's filled with dust, you can't see ourselves. And then we can even probably end up throwing the mirror out in the trash, saying it's useless. What's the use of this mirror? But it's useful. We just have to wipe, like go like this and do this. Oops, what did I do? Oh yeah, it got practically proven. So similarly, our chitta, our consciousness, it has all these impressions. Sattva samskar, rajasic samskar, and tamasic. Sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic samskars or impressions. Red, white, and black spots, just for our graphical analysis. But when we chant, then it brings in the golden spots. And that overrides and cleans off all the white, red, and black spots. And that helps us tap the happiness of the soul. Just like when the dust on the mirror is taken off, we can actually see ourselves in the mirror. And now we see, oh, it's wonderful. I feel happy and I can comb my hair and make sure that the collar is right and sit properly and adjust everything by that mirror, which I was going to trash in the first place. So that same holy name, which I think is some ordinary sound, can actually invoke true love, can bring our original form, spiritual identity as the servant of God alive by first clearing off these samskars. And in the presence of these samskars, it doesn't let us taste the nectar of the holy name. But for that, we have to continue. Keep chanting, get more and more golden spots, let them replace the white, red, and black spots, and then the happiness will come. There is some investment in every business before you can reap the profit. घर बैठे बैठे पहले दिन ही प्रॉफिट हमें मुनाफा नहीं होने वाला. पहले 50 लाख जो भी है 70 लाख आपको इन्वेस्ट करना पड़ेगा. और फिर कई बार तो इन्वेस्टर्स ये कहते हैं, many times they say that once you invest, don't talk about profit for the first 5 years. और फिर आगे देखो होता है क्या. आगे तो केवल घर बैठे बैठे आप पैसे बनाओगे. So even in the material realm, there's some investment. There's some input in the beginning. And then there's only fruits to bear. Even for a farmer, we see, even for a gardener, we see, he pushes in the seed. He doesn't get the mango fruit immediately. He has to cultivate every single day, keep away the weeds, which in our case would be distraction and procrastination, laziness, inattentiveness. Those are the weeds. We keep all of that away. And then we put the fencing so that the offenses are taken care of, that we don't commit the offenses. And then the seed of Nam will give the fruit of Ananda. But it takes time. It's definitely a powerful process. People in the past who have done it have got it. People in the present who are doing it are getting it. Shastra says if you do it, you will get it. So therefore, why not try it? If you don't get it, fine. But try for 6 months.
Wonderful. Okay. We're going to just touch on the last topic because I don't know if you've noticed, but it's almost coming up to 2 hours that people have been listening. We've got almost 700 people watching with us for 2 hours. So I thank you all for being so patient. But this is a real testament to Amarendra Prabhu's speaking abilities. So if you want to hear more, he's got wonderful lectures regularly on YouTube and Facebook, on your official website. But just for closing conclusions, you're saying it's going to make me happy. What proof do you have that it's going to make me happy? Because even enjoying my life, I think I'm happy. I can just do what I continue to do. Why should I believe you when you say that it will give me real happiness? How do I know that? And how do you know that?
Well,
just being the devil's advocate here.
Sure, absolutely. So whatever we are doing in life, we can definitely be happy. There is no doubt about it. But the question is, for how long? For
Mm.
how long? Today, I'm happy with the house that I live in. But it's possible that tomorrow I have to give up that house. That same house which gives me happiness will give me terrible pain and distress when it's taken away. So the
Mm.
nature of things in this world is not
Mm.
happiness, but
Mm.
is just future suffering. Krishna says
Mm.
in the Bhagavad Gita, Yehi samsparsha cha bhoga dukkhayo naya evate adhyantavanta kaunteya nateshu ramate buddha. Krishna says that every enjoyment in this world is brilliant when we get it. Brilliant, no doubt
Mm.
about it. It's brilliant when you get it. Everyone likes to
Mm.
have like vehicles and good, beautiful wife and nice children and a good job and money and a
Mhm.
brilliant house. Absolutely, yes. I'm not denying that. But Krishna says it's good to get it. It's a pain to maintain it, and
Mm.
ultimately, it's disappointing and distressful when it's taken away.
Mm.
Arthanam arjane dukkham, arjitanam cha rakshane, aye dukkham, vaye dukkham, dik arthan kashta sanshritan. In Sanskrit, it has been mentioned that arthanam
Mm.
arjane dukkham, to earn money is painful, it's stressful.
Mm.
And arjitanam cha rakshane, once you,
Mm.
first of all, to earn money is stressful. Once after earning money, to preserve it is stressful.
Mm.
And aye dukkham, vaye dukkham. If it is preserved properly, then why it's not multiplying is a stress. And if it is stolen away, then also it is a stress. But the illusion is, unfortunately, that money will keep me happy, right? So it
Wow.
may bring in some temporary flickering sukha. In Sanskrit, there are two words. One is sukha, and second is ananda.
Mm.
It can give sukha, but it cannot give ananda. It cannot
Mm.
give ananda. Ananda is that pleasure which never can be taken away. It will not be taken away, it will not reduce, and it remains forever in all places, in all circumstances, in all times. Why? Because it is coming from within.
क्या बात है?
When we put the remote control of our happiness in things of this world, persons of this world, circumstances of this world, and when they all move with,
Mm.
you know, um, instability in life, then what's
Mm.
happening is when they come close to us, we are happy. When they are going away, we are distressful. It's like
Mm.
reading something in a local train or a local bus in Mumbai. Like, let's say we read something, a book in a local bus or a train. It's moving, and we are not comfortable. But
Mm.
the same
Mm.
thing when we read a book on a flight for 5 hours, we don't feel any nausea. We don't feel.
Mm.
So what I'm saying is, when we focus our attention on something that moves, it creates
Mm.
nausea. But when we focus our attention on something that is steady, it brings in
Mm.
happiness. So when we put our attention and affection and happiness quotient on things, persons, and circumstances of this world, which are all moving, ultimately they will create nausea. They will
Mm.
create dissatisfaction when they are taken away.
Mm.
But when we focus our attention on something that doesn't change, that is God. Something that doesn't change, that is the soul. Something that doesn't change, that is the eternal relationship of the soul with God. Something that doesn't change is that of the loving call, that is the holy name. If we invest our happiness quotient in things that don't change, the profit is inconceivable. But if we invest our happiness quotient in things which, in a market which can crash, when we make
Mm.
profit, it's great, but when it crashes, we are miserable. But if we
Mm.
invest it in a business which will never crash and it just increases with time, then we're just going to make more
Mm.
and more, profit, spiritually speaking. So therefore,
Wow.
this is called sukha. This is called ananda. So I wouldn't say that you're miserable. You're definitely happy doing what you're doing. But
Mm.
I just want to, with open arms, welcome you into the realm of unending happiness.
Wow. Jai Ho, you heard it here. You heard it here from Amarendra Prabhu's mouth itself, that there is a difference between sukham and ananda, right? So there's just tapping into the actual essence of it. That ananda is something that will last, and it must
Correct.
therefore come from a source that lasts. It must come from somewhere which will last if you want it to last.
In fact,
Wonderful.
In fact, even the etymology of the word sukha and dukkha is very interesting. The syllable kha in Sanskrit refers to inner space. Inner space. Kham mano buddhirevacha. So kham means ether, the inner space, the consciousness. So when that temporarily expands, it is called sukha.
Kya baat hai?
And when it temporarily contracts, it's called dukkha. That consciousness has got contracted, then it expands, then it contracts, then it expands, then it contracts. So it's a temporary play of happiness and distress, which is flickering and fleeting. But Ananda doesn't have a dukkha counterpart. It's just increasing.
Wow, that's very profound. I've never heard this etymology of dukkha and sukha. So I can even resonate while you were saying it. You know how you feel down, that feeling of as if you're being pressured into something. Your ether space is reducing, being pressured, stressed out, causes dukkha. And if you're feeling elated, light, open, it's expanding, you're gaining things materially, then you feel sukha. Wonderful. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. It is coming up to 2 hours. So unfortunately, we're going to have to call it now. But we've had many questions, which we didn't have a chance to get to. This simply means you'll have to come again, Amarendra Prabhuji. You're going to have to promise us that you'll be back here. And so many people have mentioned, can you please do a bhajan for us? Because apparently, you're well known for your kirtans as well. So maybe on the next chat, we can have a nice kirtan with you. But for today, I'm sure we can all join together in thanking you for really enlightening us on this incredibly powerful topic. And I have heard this my whole life. I've heard this, and yet I was riveted for 2 hours. So I can only thank your parents, your gurus, and all of everyone who's empowered you to do this beautiful service of and giving the heart ananda and sharing Krishna's message with everyone. So, we shower you with all our blessings. May you continue to make so many people connected with their true self.
Thank you so much. I actually came here only for the blessings, but it's kind of unfair for me to just come and ask for blessings without doing anything. So last 2 hours is a humble offering, only so that we can come to the actual point of the discussion, to ask all of the viewers for blessings. I don't claim to be a realized person, a knowledgeable knower, but I just want to say that all of the discussions will ultimately fructify, not on our endeavor, but by the blessings of the Saviors. The practices that we perform are like seeds, but it needs a fertile soil to fructify. And that fertile soil is the prayers, heartfelt best wishes, and blessings of everyone, starting with you yourself first.
Anything we have is yours, Prabhuji. And everyone watching you, please, let's bless Prabhuji. Keep going. Wonderful.
Thank you so
We're
much.
So grateful. And everyone else will join you again next every Saturday. We're here on YouTube and Facebook. And please do go and follow Amarendra Das official on YouTube, on Facebook. And you can transform your life. There's no excuse. Hare Krishna. Have a wonderful weekend.